Today's episode is brought to you by KingsRowTimes.com, the front page for all things Overwatch, bringing all news, community highlights, fan art, and videos to one page. Check them out in the description below.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Oh, not too much. Just basking in the glow of a 2-0 week for my Houston Owls. Where's my hat?
Oh, I was going to say, in fantasy, because I think...
No, I don't get 2-0 weeks in fantasy. Stop it.
Like, are we talking about me, or... But yeah, good. A lot of stuff happening this week, this episode. This is actually, if you're listening in podcast land, we're actually recording the second part of a double feature because our benevolent overlords in regards to fantasy, Winston's Lab, released the stats way too late for us to record an episode on Sunday, so we did both of them today on Monday. So this is now we're we're now going into hour 3 of recording or whatever. So if you guys you just heard a second ago, I just want to talk about this for a little bit, because it's kind of momentous, right, for us with our sponsorship. I'm pretty proud of it. So we have our first, not a joke, actual real opening to the show that we literally planned.
Sponsor.
Yeah, an episode sponsor. And we're pretty happy about that. So, if you guys are doing anything, or you're something that's related to gaming, or you're affiliated with something or someone that's related to gaming, and they want a spot on the show, reach out to us, because we definitely would love to have that conversation. And
make sure you check out KingsRowTimes.com, the front page for all things Overwatch, my favorite Overwatch.
Now you're just giving him free stuff, and that's it. No, I'm kidding.
Whoever pays me the most recent is my favorite.
That's
I have no
true.
shame. Pepsi and Coke want to get into this fight with us. That's fine.
You're undercutting us, though.
I will flip-flop back and forth all day. So
no, but huge shout-outs to
you.
Kings Row Times, and huge shout-outs to the guys that reached out to us. Super humbling to be able to do that. So, but we're definitely always looking for and willing to have a conversation. So let us know if you'd like to sponsor an episode or be a part of an episode. We don't have a set plan for anything. We can make it work for you as well as for us. So if you're looking to have that conversation, we are more than happy to have it.
Email highnoonpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, highnoonpodcast@gmail.com, or just do that. That's the only way I'm accepting business stuff. I really don't want to have conversations on Discord. I mean, I don't care. Do whatever. But just email highnoonpodcast@gmail.com. Do that instead of anything else. But let's talk about what the show did last week. We had, of course, another episode of Around the Payload. We had 2 of the forever 4th place players on in Thorn Rain, and of course the sub sounds are still on because I'm an idiot. But well, that noise right there is a subscription on Twitch. And if you guys like listening to the show live, you can always do that at twitch.tv/HighNoonPodcast. I promise I didn't plan that to happen during the show. I'm not sure if Vixia did or not, and if she did, well played. You got there. But we had Thorn Rain and I Play Games, the multi-time recurring guests who have been forever 4th place. So one of them had to not get 4th place, right? Or maybe that's what you'd think. But we also had Save Reality, who is an Overwatch League analyst and content creator. We actually saw her at the Women in Esports panel at PAX. So that's how that started. So it was really nice to have her on. And of course, last but not least, we had Hexagrams. Yes, the Overwatch League caster. He was on as well. another long-time multi-recurring guest on the High Noon podcast, or High Noon production shows.
Also,
always.
I want to get this out very early in the episode so as many people hear it as possible. High Noon Podcast Game Night number 2 will be happening next weekend, Saturday.
No, this weekend.
Yes, this coming weekend, the next weekend that occurs, Saturday, April 28th, the moment that Overwatch League matches conclude for the day, we will be starting our game night. Spoiler alert, Blevins might be streaming a little bit before
I'm going to start
close.
I'm going to start it before so that we're not so that the 12-hour stream isn't from 6 to 6 or whatever, or from 10 to 10 or whatever it would end up being.
Yes, because we do have that's stage finals next weekend, right? Or no, not this coming weekend, right? There's one more after this, right? So all right, so at least we won't have something on Sunday. That was my big concern when we originally scheduled it. I'm like, oh man, are we gonna have to like wake up for stage finals like 3 hours after the stream ends or whatever? But we might be like watching the end of the matches on stream or something like that on Saturday as well. But as long as you guys want to be playing that night, I can promise you Blevins and I will be on and willing to queue with any one of you. Even if the game night breaks apart, maybe we'll just get on alts or something, do some comp or whatever. We'll figure something out. But yeah, this weekend coming up, make sure you guys join us. As many lobbies as we can possibly host, we will.
Yes.
I can vouch for at least 2. Because me and Blevins can each host one. So we will get back to you.
I kind of want to, if we get enough people, I kind of want to cast games too. I think that'll be fun. That's fun to do.
We can definitely do that. We can do a lot of different things and play around with it some. Your streaming setup is much better than mine, so that might be more viable this time than last time, which we did do some for the spur of the moment, barely advertised game night we did previously, which was a lot of fun. And Blevins wasn't there, so come help him have a little bit more fun than we had the last time around. Make it a little bit bigger. We would love to see you guys and get some.
Yes. We'd love to make it a more occurring thing too. So let us know. I mean, a lot of you have already said, "Hey, when's game night? Hey, can we do game night? Hey, when's game?" Okay, we hear you. But let's hear some more. Come on.
Yeah, we're not saying stop telling us, but just understand we don't want to cross schedule with another game night, and we don't ever want to cross schedule with Overwatch League. Like obviously the crossover of our fans and Overwatch League fans is about 100%. So we don't really want to be trying to draw you guys away from Overwatch League matches. And also a lot of the other podcasts have frankly been doing game nights for longer than us, and I don't want to step on their toes and get people torn between the two of them. We like to participate in their game nights as well, so if you join those, you'll have a high probability of seeing either a Blevins or Deathblow appearance at some point. So make sure you guys check those out as well. But next Saturday is free. Omniclad's on free. Check it out.
Nice. But we also literally minutes ago just recorded a new episode of Foul Play, which is it may be the shortest piece of content that Deathblow and I have ever recorded together.
Fact.
And I think that also includes the Overwatch League Cupcakes video as well.
I was gonna say the drops because somehow the high news drop was an hour and 40 minutes long.
But that wasn't both of us. That was just me. So who knows? But so definitely a good one, and all that will be out. But let's move on to what did we personally do last week. Deathblow, anything fun and exciting for you this week?
Just practicing with the podcaster team a little bit here and there. Also trying to figure out what deck in Hearthstone I want to play. I'm not one in card games and strategy games. I don't like to play the meta. I like to counter the meta. So I'm figuring out what the meta is in Hearthstone right now, and then I'll go about tweaking my decks to try to level up and get them that way. But yeah, so just been having a lot of fun with some other games.
Cut the quest from the warrior deck. It's not good. I played it a lot. Oh,
I disagree that the quest is good, but I've been playing it more without it lately, just because it lets me play like Ysera and some of my favorite win conditions in Hearthstone that are still around. Ysera, if I can fit Ysera into a deck, I want to do it. And there's really no room for it in quest. But I do think the decks are comparable. I don't know.
I mean, I played
it a lot. Podcast. Let's go. Tangent, hour minute, cut the VOD in half. We're doing it now. All right, we won't do it.
Yeah. Actually, side note, I play games and I were talking about something that we need to get you in on. But that is another thing to talk about at a different time and not in the middle of High Noon Podcast. Yeah, so I actually got the opportunity for the first time with new people watch Overwatch League in person. So like obviously I wasn't at the arena, but like watched it with other people, like sitting next to them in real life, watching Overwatch League. So I went to my parents' house for my brother's birthday. He had a bunch of his friends over, or a handful of his friends over for his birthday. And of course I wore my NYXL hat, and I also was wearing my NYXL jersey because they were playing that day. It was Saturday, and his one friend comes in and is wearing like the Lucio like hoodie and a Diva hat, and I'm like, "Oh, you like Overwatch?" He's like, "Yeah," and like he walked in, he's like, "Oh, NYXL." I'm like, "Yeah, man." And then his other friend comes in, he's like, "Dude, nice hat, NYXL." I'm like, oh, so we're definitely watching Overwatch League later today. So actually, they both joined the Discord as well over at discord.me/podcast, which you can also do as well. But yeah, it was really funny, or it was really fun watching in person with a big group of people. That's always fun to do. I've been playing a lot of Hearthstone, streaming Hearthstone as well. And the other thing that I've been kind of keeping under wraps, because I was on Friend DA up until very recently, was...
You didn't even tell me.
No, mostly because it wasn't very exciting. I mean, it kind of is exciting a little bit, but...
less exciting to me than most people.
Right. You're very hard to impress. But
yeah, you've got more work to do.
Yeah. Exactly. But if you guys are familiar with the Streamer Showdown series, it's done for a lot of different games. There's Hearthstone one, there's Overwatch one, there's probably other game ones that I'm not familiar with, but there's definitely been ones that like aren't even gaming. Like I know they did like a Thor one, but basically there's 3 panelists who are streamers. Surprise, surprise. And they do basically they do basic, but like they've had like Crip on, and I'm pretty sure Ben Brode did one like a while ago. But it's made by Chanman V, who is an ATP alumnus and fellow Overwatch podcaster, and I've been helping him write the show for the Overwatch one, which is supposed to be airing on this Thursday, so in 3 days. It's going to have XQC Mendo and Aimbot Calvin on it, and I believe ZP is going to be hosting, so that's going to be a spicy episode. A couple of stupid jokes that I wrote are going to be in the show, so definitely check that out. It should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be watching. They're usually fun. They're usually very fun because they're like kind of lighthearted, and it's like a stupid game show, kind of like Around the Payload is also like a stupid fake game show, except the points mean more in that game, I guess. Around the Payload is really not a game. It's just a reason for me to press buttons. But
rigged.
Yeah, it's definitely not rigged. But let's move on to my favorite segment of the show.
Overwatch Today, meme of the week.
Of course, our meme of the week. And I was thinking, I was looking back and I'm like, man, I don't know what meme I want to do. Like there's a Rascal meme floating out there. Like, I don't know. And then I looked at the High Noon Podcast Discord meme section. It's like, oh yeah, the whole AKM blades being a unit of time is 100% the meme of the week.
Yeah, so we said Foul Play was a short episode this week. It was 2.3 AKM blades.
Yeah.
Whereas you have the regular flagship show, which is more like 4.7 AKM blades worth of time.
Yeah, and it's basically AKM is such a huge air quotes good Genji that his blades they charge up ever so quickly.
Now Blevins, when they were signing him, everybody said he's been practicing it on stream. He's added it to his hero pool.
I mean, I practice Overwatch on stream too. Sign me. Dallas Fuel. But, you know, it's okay because at the very least, like, ACAM was definitely the best Genji they had on the team. They didn't have, like, a top tier, like, in the world Genji, like Rascal or anything. And yet another week of the Dallas Fuel being the meme of the week continues, and the Blue Bag podcast gets ever closer to being a reality.
And the actual legitimate Dallas Fuel fans get ever closer to stealing our name idea, which you're welcome to, by the way.
Yeah. If anyone
actually producing the Blue Bag podcast.
If anyone wants to make the Blue Bag podcast and wants it to be, I guess the correct term is produced, I don't know, by High Noon Podcast, just shoot us a message. Definitely.
Only if it's called the Blue Bag podcast.
It's got to be the Blue Bag podcast. We don't want any
any other name. That's fine.
Basically. Doesn't really matter. But let's move on. And you better believe I have a button now for the drop.
It's high news.
Yes, my favorite drop is high news. And we've got a couple of pieces of news here for this week. I guess I can add the Jaehong thing because I didn't. It was we talked a little bit about it in the foul play, but let's talk about Birdring first. So Birdring got benched for Hureg this week, to the chagrin of Deathblow because he got Bird-rang a couple of times in fantasy.
Yeah, my bird got rung pretty hard. It was brutal, but yeah, listen, we've been talking a little bit over the last couple weeks about how Birdring's maybe looked like he's taken a step back. They were kind of phasing in Hureg a little bit, but now since we're using a lot of finger quotes this episode, there's a wrist injury for Birdring that he's dealing with. I like to call my wrist injuries slumps. I just call a spade and say I'm playing poorly. But listen, in all seriousness, there could be a wrist injury at play. We really don't know, and if there is, it's nothing for an esports player to be taking lightly. It just reeks of coach speak to me. That they're saying, well, he's playing poorly right now, but we want to bring him back, right? Because we're at our best when Birdring's playing well, so we don't want it to be like Hureg got the job, so let's call it a wrist injury. That's kind of what it seems like to me. Like there's no, in the NFL, you get like punished if you misreport injuries and things like that. There's none of that here, to my knowledge, at least, until we see the full comprehensive rule book. I don't have any reason to think these guys can get in trouble for calling.
It was released, wasn't it? The rule book was released.
It was leaked, but it wasn't like the player conduct section of it was released, but not not the team.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the full comprehensive rules. There was a leak, but again, they've been very open about how often they're changing the document and with after consulting the teams, things like that. That's why it's not fully out yet. Who knows what's up with this particular section of it? But yeah, I'm not fully buying into this wrist injury situation. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It looks like Hureg's going to be the second DPS player for the London Spitfire, who are undefeated on Oasis this week. But yeah, so we will have to wait and see what that means for the London Spitfire. I think they go from being the consensus number 2 team to a mid-table team with the rest of them. Like without having, because with Hureg in, they're no longer the best DPS core in Overwatch League. Like we talked about them through the first 2 stages. We said they were the number 1 DPS talented team. It's not really the case anymore. Now, bet you wish you kept Rascal, right? Because now he's just kind of unemployed, not playing for anybody. But at the end of the day, Hureg's their guy. He's probably the best Pharah on their team anyways, so on some maps it's kind of okay, but even on Pharah maps, when they were using him this week, they were like playing Sombra and stuff like that. So it's a little bit goofy to pin down what's going on with London right now, whether it's questionable wrist injuries that are taking players out or questionable coaches' decisions that are taking players out. They just never seem to be at their full strength anymore. So we're going to have to wait and see how this impacts them. For now, I think you just have to call matchups with London against the mid-table teams, kind of like coin flips at them.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because they're playing against the Shock and Gladiators this week, which is like, man, if they drop, I mean, losing against Gladiators is not unheard of. They've done it in the past, but if they lose to Shock this week, man, what is the world coming to if that's the case?
I don't know. Ask Fusion fans. But we can move along here. The next item on the list, this is something Blevins filled me in on moments ago on foul play.
I'm trying to find the actual thing I saw on competitive Overwatch, but maybe.
Well, It's a two-parter, so
Yeah,
I'll start with the
start
part
it,
that we
yeah.
know for sure, and you can keep looking for that. But Jaehong, it was reported, is kind of benched himself due to fatigue and just kind of feeling whatever. I don't know. Apparently the sniffles or the grumpies kind of set these players off in a way that don't get me time off of work.
Right.
But so Jaehong benched himself in the second matchup. I'm blanking on who it was against. One was it? I don't remember. Anyways, benched himself this
week. He had
week.
0 points this week.
Oh, 0. He didn't play at all. Oh, geez. So he sat out on the week and just continues to compound the issues that Seoul's having. We've been talking about for a little while now how they're kind of, even though they were in the second seed, right, because they were the top of the Pacific Division's not doing well as a whole right now. So they can go from the second seed with a bye in the playoffs to out of the playoffs really, really quickly. There may only be one Atlantic division team that makes it into the playoffs, and there's no guarantee that that's going to be Seoul. So they really need to get their act together, and Guido's no Jaehong. Like, even though Jaehong's no Jaehong is not what I was sold on Jaehong being going into the league, he's still considerably better than Guido. So they really need to get him back ASAP. The other half of this is that Effect, the Dallas Fuel standout DPS player, by far playing his best Overwatch of the season so far in this stage, had enough back in Korea. The fatigue is too much. Like, apparently, if he loses 3 matches in a row, he needs to take a month off, and that's really disconcerting for Dallas fans as a whole. Personally, I think the question to me becomes: do you want a player this temperamental on your team? The Houston Outlaws have this gaping tracer need. Effect is proven time and time again to be a top tier tracer, but would Effect going to Houston make them undefeated on the season? I don't think so, since New York's not undefeated on the season. It seems unlikely.
Undefeated. No one's undefeatable, I don't think.
There seems to be one team that Effect wouldn't have raged and went back to Korea after a bad slump or something like that. So the question for me becomes: is Effect a player you want on your Overwatch League team? So that's what I'm asking you, Blevins. If SBB leaves in free agency and they're looking for a new tracer, how much do you want Effect? How would you feel about Effect joining the New York Excelsior in season?
As a fan, or am I like a part of the organization, or am I like the coach, or am I like?
Well, you're not currently part of the organization.
I know that, but like in this scenario,
let's just go with the fan perspective.
Okay. Yes, because I mean, it's tough because on the one hand, like, I don't want that, like, even if like, and we've heard. Well, I'll just say Fuel fans. I don't know who exactly has said this, but a lot of them have. It's like, oh, well, the team gets mismanaged. They had Kai as a coach. The internal players, like blah 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 blah. Like, all these things are causing him to like not be up to snuff and like not wanting to, like, he doesn't want to communicate and do stuff with the team because this, that, and the other thing. It's like, okay, well, we've talked about it before. If you can't handle adversity and you crumble under adversity, why wouldn't I give the chance to someone else who's willing to at least try in adversity? Like, if Effect was out
by
there,
the team in a slump, like, it's being a really bad teammate to me to leave.
a terrible teammate. Now, on the flip side of that, I have the utmost faith in the NYXL coaching staff that if Effect was put on the team, then they would have already taken precautions to either mitigate that or let him know that this is not acceptable and that this is how things are going to be, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like, my gut is like, I don't want that, like locker room cancer to an extent on the team, but also if he were to be on the team, I think that the NYXL staff would be able to manage that appropriately.
Yeah, it does. See, I'm of a different camp, and maybe it's just where we're coming from, and maybe it's that as a Houston fan, and with them being rumored to be signing Kai, I just think bringing those two back into the same room together would just be brutal. But something not in the list. But yeah, the Houston Outlaws are rumored to be signing Kai as an assistant coach, like a player development coach, is the way it's been worded to me, which I think is a great hire personally. You see this all the time in sports where coaches don't work as head coaches, go back to being assistant or positional coaches. back to where they made their bones in the league and in the sport, and do very, very well. So I'm very confident that that'll prove to be a valuable signing for Houston. But back to the affecting. I mean, this is like the third time now. Like it's the second time he's gone to Korea, in the third instance where he has physically separated himself from the entire rest of the team mid-stage. Once it happened mid-match when he just stayed on stage and did warm-ups and refused to go talk to the team and be a part of the team in the in the room in the back when they went back for halftime. I think that's more than enough to call it a pattern. And I think unless you're New York, where you can count on being very, very good and not hitting long losing streaks or anything like that, every other team in the league so far has been subject to them at some point. There's been issues. So there's exactly one team. Effect wouldn't have had a little, I mean, maybe he would have only had one instead of three by now. But once a stage is too often for me, for a player to be having a hissy fit and losing time. I don't know. This is, I mean, better than XQC getting himself suspended every 5 seconds when he's around.
At least Effect can play.
Right. Overall, it's a very different conversation because Effect is like opting into this. It's just, oh, it's so stressful. Like, oh, I'm sorry, but I work 40 hours a week, come home, prepare 3 podcasts, sometimes guest on a 4th, sometimes appear on other ones. Like, if you want to compare classroom time and like desk work, maybe not scrim hours and stuff like that, I can't match your scrim hours, Effect, but I'll go hour for hour with you on clerical work and busy work and paperwork style stuff that I do compared to you and the classroom session in scrims. I just it's so hard for me to wrap my head around this one and excuse it. And with everything else going on around the team, the last thing you need is your best performing player right now to just up and leave. So I don't know who gave him permission to go. If he didn't ask for permission, that's a much bigger problem, but something's going on there. Either the team needs to take a tougher stance and not allow the guy to abandon you in the middle of a stage, or find a new tracer. That would be my stance.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking like it's going to be Siegel AKM this week. And it's like, what did they like? Where's Tracer? It's just like the John Travolta meme, just like,
I think AKM can do a better tracer than he can a Genji, so I'll say that. And I think Siegel's the best Genji on the team now that Rascal's gone. So it might end up being okay, but I don't think their matchups are such that we think that really is going to make.
It's so weird that they talk about Rascal not being a team player and not wanting to help out and all this stuff when Effect is just like very like clearly like.
Yeah, it seems much more guilty of that, at least from the outside. It doesn't mean he is more guilty of it.
Right.
But on the outside, definitely appears to be. And then I'm going to read this last thing before you put your tinfoil hat on and explain to us what's going on with me.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Taimu was hospitalized in the ER. He was being checked for signs of a stroke. Signs appear to be negative. He said, "I'm alive. I'm fine." He didn't get into specifics. Which frankly we don't need as long as we know he's okay. But everything does appear to be negative. But it's got to be a wake-up call for teams and players to make sure you're doing what is needed to manage stress. And it's kind of funny coming off the back of this Effect conversation.
I was just gonna say,
don't leave. But like, there's ways to manage it within your schedule, and not. And this might just be another example. This might be what Effect needed, but maybe that's because Dallas wasn't doing enough to give them the time. Like, I would almost be scheduling relaxation with my teams at this point. Like, you almost have to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see, if that's the conversation we're having with Effect, where he was like physically becoming ill as a result of the stress. Yes, you have to do something about it. You have to give him time off. But yeah, I just don't know that that's the case with that particular one. But with Taimu in particular, definitely glad to hear he seems to be okay.
Yeah.
Feel better, bud. We want to see you get some of your reputation back. I want to see him hitting those shots again in the Overwatch League before this season's over. I don't expect it.
No,
I don't expect it, but I want to see it.
Even when he was in and given a chance to shine and like play Widow and like when Mr. Good Aim was given a chance to come back, even just like mechanically, it just looked like it wasn't there like it used to be. Or maybe it's just because it's not there compared to the other players. Like Linkser didn't miss a beat. One of the best Widows in Overwatch League. Like, look at Fleta, look at even SBB or, any of these other really good Widows. And it's like, you see Taimu play it. I just remember like it was on Eichenwald and it was just like, it wasn't even wasn't even flick shotting. He was like tracking with the Widow. It's like no one plays like that because it's not like that's not good.
There's definitely a mix needed, but he was a flick god. Like that was kind of what
he was,
did.
and
So
then
it
he
was
wasn't
surprising
flicking,
to see.
so it was really weird.
So here's what we need, Papa Jeff. I need you to get on it. I need you to help me save Taimu's career. We need a triple tank meta. We need a Roadhog locked and loaded meta to bring this guy back in, and then once he's there and he's comfortable and he feels good on stage again, maybe he flexes to the McCree a little bit, maybe we see a little Widow on occasion. It'll bring him back, I promise. We need that, the Roadhog meta, to help our boy Taimu out.
Maybe it's like
roughly as soon as they stop playing Houston.
Maybe it's quad tank. Maybe it's like Roadhog, Brigida, Diva, Winston. Who knows?
I don't know. We'll see.
Who knows? But yeah, okay. So you mentioned the tinfoil hat. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit here. So New York got pushed to the limit again this week. Two 5-mappers.
Isn't that a song? Push it to the limit.
Yes.
Limit.
I think that's a different song, or maybe that's not a song, but there is a song that says pushes to the limit. So went to 5 against Philly and then went to 5 against LA Gladiators. Notably, okay, even though I put this in there, so like I'm like arguing with my past self, even though like Philly, good team, like, you know, stage 2 finalist, almost beat New York in the stage 2 playoffs. And then Gladiators has looked way better since the last time they played New York, which notably was in stage 1, because Gladiators were the team that they didn't have to play in stage 2, and they didn't make it to the playoffs. So this is the first time that New York had played against Gladiators in a long time. New York almost certainly. Okay, there's a number of reasons why I went to 5, but that's not my tinfoil hat. That's like normal excuses. My tinfoil hat here is, I think New York could possibly, to save their energy and effort in their testing hours, don't need to practice the first 2 maps ever. Like, just throw them. And then spend all of your time on the pool of potentially of the last 3 maps. So like, become God tier on Oasis because you know you're always going to play it. And then the other 2 maps, because, okay, normally, you know, like they say on the broadcast, every map matters. It only matters if you're tied in record. New York has so many games to give. There's so many games ahead that like the map count doesn't actually matter for them. So whether they win 4-0 or if they win 3-2, it's the same for them because they're still always going to be above, and they can increase the chance. Like if they can, it's either like they can win 100% of the time in 5 maps. That's going to be just as good for them as whether they win some of the matches 3-1, 3 or 4-0. Like it is definitely a stretch, but it is the type of thing that literally only New York is afforded right now because there are that many games ahead of second place. That's the end of my tinfoil hat rant.
My favorite thing about it was I feel like my facial expressions have a lot of power when you're going on tinfoil hat rants because I know you can see me, so I can just be like, I can give you like an eyebrow and then I get a reaction from you, and I
double down. I'm just doubling down.
A little bit. That was my favorite part about.
No, I think I'm gonna get a text. I'm gonna get a text from Bare Hands. It's like, dude, why did you reveal our strategy?
Stop.
Like, nope. This is and for the record here. This was completely of my own volition. I had no inside information. I didn't ask anyone about this. This is the first time I've ever even voiced it in any method, out in any way, shape, or form. I've just thought about it the last couple of times. Like, they're going to 5 a lot. They are the only team right now that is afforded the ability to do that.
That is true. If they wanted to do that, they're the only team that can afford to get away with it for a little while. But I don't think you need to sell anybody on the fact that you didn't get that from inside the NYXL.
That is true. I don't know. I think Wizard Young, like when you said that, was just like.
I think, but as far as the fans, I mean, Wizard Young's reaction aside, I think the fans are like, we believe.
I don't know. I think there was a red dot on my forehead during that whole thing, and then you just dispelled it. Now the NYXL snipers are not on me. Pine's not.
You're welcome. Because those are some good snipers.
Man, I do not want Pine coming after me. That is for sure. That would definitely kill me. Okay, enough tinfoil hat. Although I have had multiple requests for more tinfoil hat Blevins theories to come on, so I'm not super upset with that. But let's talk about we got a new patch, new PTR patch here. And I know that the big thing is Hanzo, but do we want to talk? Is there anything else we want to talk about? So.
Yeah, there's a good amount here. There's more than a couple things that I think are going to impact the meta. We don't always go into PTR patch discussions because sometimes they're May and Reaper buffs and they're not going to shift the pro meta drastically or dramatically, if you will.
Yes.
But this one in particular, we're going to go down the list because I think they all kind of tie into each other, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here at the end. But to start us off, Brigitte, her shield bash, the cone angle was reduced from 90 to 60. You're like, oh, Brigitte nerf. In the developer comments, they say, part of this is that it feels really difficult to like aim and hit the correct person with your shield bash. Part of it is to give them a little bit more ability to select the right player. Like if you're, shield bashing into a group of 6. So at least I can see this almost helping at the top tier of play.
It's a burf.
Yeah, that one's a little bit of a burf there. As far as Genji goes, this is minor, but his deflect, the hitbox size, has been reduced. So now if the shot wasn't going to hit him, presumably it's not going to be deflectable instead of like deflecting the sniper shot. It's over to here on the side. So that should hopefully feel a lot better. Overall, it doesn't really change Genji's power level very much. Just a little bit of a nerf there. Hanzo, however, was completely reworked. His Storm Bow, the projectile speed was increased from 85 to 100. That's crazy difference. That is a very drastic change in projectile speed. I don't know the projectile speed offhand, but it feels similar to a Zenyatta, maybe even a slight bit faster than that. But it's very close. Also, Scattershot is gone. Rip Scattershot.
Get him out of here.
Now we're going to be replaced by Storm Arrows. So you can now rapidly fire up to 6 arrows that deal reduced damage, but are always fired at full power. This is a very, very weird ability to get used to. When I play Hanzo, every second I'm holding a shot back, right? Like it's just always ready to go so that when I see somebody. But now when I'm doing that, right, I'm used to like toggling on and off my Sonic arrow while I'm holding it back. Now if I'm holding down the left click button and I've got the bow lined up and I press the new Storm Arrows button, 6 shots fire out of your bow really fast at full charge.
Oh, wait, really? It shoots them all at once?
There's no load time, right? So it's just...
Oh, because you already have it clicked down.
Right, because I'm holding it down when I press the button. It's just... So it's just me screwing it up and not being just having to change the way I play the hero. Gotcha. So there's a fundamental shift to Hanzo that's going to maybe make you a little worse on him right away. But overall, I think this is going to be a positive change for him. It's going to really normalize his damage, make him much more consistent and less about scatter shot bursts. So it might help bring him into the meta a little bit. Maybe not, every single map or whatever. I think you're still going to want to be playing McCree most of the time, but King's Row first, where he was fringe playable, very viable. You could do it if you wanted to. Now maybe he's like a must on King's Row attacks, things like that. Also, Sonic Arrow got burfed, but mostly a buff here, I think. The cooldown was decreased from 20 seconds to 12 seconds. The duration was decreased from 10 seconds to 6 seconds, and the radius was decreased from 10 meters to 7 meters. So overall, Sonic Arrow is less effective when you fire it, right? It's smaller, it lasts longer, but you get to fire it almost twice as often. So you get to check different spots of the map. I think overall, again, like I said, I think that's a positive change for Hanzo. Just gets the ability to peek corners more often. That's not going to be a bad thing for him. Also now, Lunge is a new ability that he has. When you jump or when you're in the air, you press the button and you leap horizontally. So instead of a double jump like Genji has, now you get to make a Jenga style double jump and up and over. It seems very interesting. I don't know where exactly that gets you to on Hanzo yet because I've only played it on Rialto, the new map.
There's a Reddit video with at least a couple of spots that you can jump to know.
Yeah, but I think overall it just makes him much less predictable when he's moving, which is a very positive thing for the hero.
The two that I know off the top of my head, because I saw the video, are you can now flank around on Volskaya. Like you can take the back path on attack. Like you can make it across to the back like you would with Tracer or Lucio or any of them. And also you can get you can now, I think, dash behind. You can flank on King's Row attack on first. I think that's where it was. You can like get up behind. So at least there, two really instantly good new uses for Hanzo with that dash, and I'm sure there's more too.
Yeah, he's going to change, and I'm not going to lie to you. I think there's a good chance he does become a very firm part of the meta. It's worth noting that he's kind of always been this tracer counter that never gets talked about because he doesn't fit into team comps or anything like that, but he's very, very good against tracer. Hopefully that still holds through without having scatter arrow, but usually you were sending those at the tanks anyways and just hitting that one shot on the tracer that ended them. But overall, I think a lot of people are like crying OP or things are like wrong with Hanzo.
Oh, you mean like every time a new patch comes out?
Yes. I don't think he's better than McCree. And how often is McCree being played right now? So it's gonna take a meta shift. But I do think they're similar in roles now, right? Like there's differences to them, but I think they serve similar roles now. And I don't see this as an OP hero by any means. I just want him to be playable. And if Tracer leaves the meta on my team right now, I'll have a DPS partner that doesn't play Junkrat and doesn't play Hanzo. So I will just get to have literally the most fun any DPS player's ever gotten to have ever. So I hope I'm wrong and that Hanzo's a must pick because I love the hero. Yeah, I just don't think that's going to be the case.
I want to see Libero play him. That's what I really want to see.
Yeah, honestly, I think our two teams stand to benefit the most from Hanzo jumping in. I think Linkser and Libero are ridiculous on Hanzo. Very probably another. I'm getting all them words I've ever made up on this show. I'm getting them in. But yeah, I think there's a good chance that like those two are the best two Hanzos. We don't get to see it enough to like make a definitive call on that. But there's a very good chance those are the best two in Overwatch League. Moving on here, we've got some slight changes to Junkrat Frag Launcher. The projectile size has been decreased from 0.3 to 0.1. I don't know what that's going to do. The Riptire movement speed has been decreased from 13 to 12. I think basically this is just going to make him, it's not going to change his power level drastically overall. He's going to be fine. He's going to be roughly in the same spot he's in now. Riptire might be a little less frustrating and a little less impactful, but right now it's basically the most impactful ultimate in the game. And then he's going to be a little less effective with his spammy, but overall it's not going to matter. Like you're playing him because the levels and the approaches choke down into one choke point anyways, and that's why Junkrat's good. I don't think a 0.1 change. I could be wrong though, because I really don't understand the impact of changing the projectile size by 0.1, but Jake doesn't seem to think it's going to be a big deal, and I think Jake's a pretty good authority on Junkrat. So moving on, a couple more changes. These ones, I don't think the Lucio one especially, I think is really unfortunate, but I don't think it changes much for Overwatch League or really for the power level of the hero at all. Wall ride is basically foolproof now. You're less likely to be interrupted while traveling along a single surface. You can now just go around corners, inside, outside, wherever you want. You don't have to leave the wall. You just keep holding the button down. You can now land back on the same wall after leaping away as long as you go far enough away from the original jumping off points. You don't even have to like go away from the wall. You just have to like be off of it for a distance before you go back on. The movement speed bonus from leaping off of walls was decreased from 2.5 to 2.0. Makes sense if they're making it that much easier to stick to walls and stuff. I get that part of it. And then they did add a minimum time when the jump key must be held before Lucio can ride around corners. So you can't just like stick to a wall right at the corner and loop around it. Like you've got to be on it for a bit. But I think this really just also Soundwave, the boop, the right click, no longer consumes ammo. That piece of it's big. That's now got no opportunity cost to it, no nothing. You just get to boop at will on cooldown, go crazy. I think that's going to be a big deal. It's going to make it. This just all takes things that talented Lucio players were already managing well, and takes them out of the game. Right? So I think this really
that effectively increases his damage though now, doesn't it? Because now he can get an extra clip in before he boops.
Yeah, it does. It increases his damage output a little bit, but I really think the wall riding aspect of Lucio was like the big skill cap area, and I think they really just kind of nerfed it into the ground. So I'm really overall upset about this change, but at the same time, I don't think you'll see it in Overwatch League play. Like I don't think you'll see a difference in Lucio pick rate or power level, impact, anything like that. I think it just makes the hero inherently more boring to play and a little easier to play. So it's going to help you out if you're a silver player and you like to play Lucio. Like, you're probably going to be better at Lucio now. But at the end of the day, I just think it's the wrong direction to go with the hero. Like, stop making heroes easier, I guess is my problem.
It's been a while.
I prefer when they add complexity and skill cap abilities into heroes rather than the other way around.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen a huge resurgence of Lucio, and I kind of miss him, but at the same time, it's like when he's like an auto include, it's also not the best. So,
Right now, it feels like it's him or Mercy that's an auto include. I'd prefer it to be Lucio, but at the end of the day, doesn't make a big difference. I'm a DPS player now. I have transcended. My dream has come true. But the last thing is something I never thought we'd see, and that's Tracer's name on a balance change list here, Blevins. Pulse Bomb, maximum damage decreased from 400 to 300. The developer comments, Pulse Bomb was too good at killing tanks. Who can be easy to stick due to their size. This damage reduction makes it less powerful as a tank destroyer while keeping it lethal against most other heroes.
Yeah.
It's all fine, well, and good. And when I saw that, I thought, this probably won't be a big deal. But there's this thing about explosions in Overwatch, Blevins, and that's the damage drop-off radius, okay? So when you start with a lower base damage and then you have drop-off, you're talking about a lot less players dying to pulse bombs. Now when you stick the Mercy and she tries to get away, the Zenyatta's not going to die because he doesn't take enough damage because the drop-off brings it down below his health total. It's going to change a lot of different interactions. Basically, if they're not in a graviton together, you're probably not going to get multiple people. I haven't done enough testing on this to be sure. I've also done some testing to the point where I stuck a Winston, put a couple bullets in his brain, and he died too. So you can still use it as a tank destroyer. It's just less effective as one. You do need to do a little more follow-up or get a little more help from your team. But I think the big issue here is, like, you can't leave it on the ground near the back line. Like, they're going to be able to more effectively scatter away now. So I think it is going to change pretty drastically the effectiveness of the ultimate ability from Tracer. Maybe to the point of unintended impact here. We might see a little bit of a reversal or some change in maybe how it interacts with armor as opposed to static HP, something along those lines. Because I don't know. At the end of the day, why is SBB so good? Not because 3 people die when he pulse bombs.
Right. It's never
because he constantly just backlines and there's a huge harassing problem and he 1v1s people into the ground. You still get that from Tracer. The thing that I wonder is if you chip away at the effectiveness of the pulse bomb a little bit, bring Brigitte in to make it so that Tracer has to stay pretty far away from people now to not get shield slammed. Also, you have slight nerfs to the DPS partner in Genji. Maybe this just chips away at dive enough. Busta Hanzo. Maybe this just chips, who's a counter to Tracer. Like, I think all things considered, it looks to me like Blizzard would like to see dive composition maybe take a step back and feature a different style of play at the end of the Overwatch League. As a Houston fan, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. But I think in general, it's just going to be a positive change. If we could bring a little bit more Rectangle Man back into our lives, I think we all might be a little bit happier. But I do want to see a balance. I want to see dive teams versus death ball teams. I want there to be distinctive styles. I think part of the reason we don't see that now is, quite frankly, because teams are cowards, and also, but it's also the fact
in the league are cowards right now. None of them are playing Rascal.
Right. I mean, like, ideally, ideally Houston had a Tracer, right? And I'm not saying I've done the scrim results to know that they shouldn't just be like, they're not better off playing the Tracer when they're not great at it or whatever. They could be better that way. I really don't know. But part of me at least wants to see, right, when it's not going well, like Shanghai, what are you doing? What are you just rolling the meta out there for right now? How's it working for you?
Better.
Houston's not the best example. Let's look at Dallas and let's look at Shanghai.
Right.
Do what you do best, because what is best doesn't work for you. And I don't know why it's taking so long for the bottom table teams to come to that conclusion.
Play Zarya. Just start playing some Zarya stuff. That'll throw
like you have Giguri. She's a phenomenal Zarya player. Find out if people are wrong. Do it in the live setting. When everything's on the line. Don't do it in scrims where they can, take a pause and figure it out, talk about it, and we'll do whatever. Like, they're all in the same room. Do it when it's as hard as possible for them to communicate.
Throw the wild card.
They can't talk to their coach.
They haven't
throw these things
practiced
at them
it.
now.
They haven't done it. Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Lose?
Yeah, you can't, like, It's just like you can't like super double like lose with a cherry on top and my fingers crossed. Like you lose 4-0 just like every other game. It's okay. You can take.
But I've always thought Houston would have been better in stage 2 specifically than 500, 5-5.
Yeah.
If they just played Widow and Junkrat every map. In every situation, I think they would have been at least 6-4. Maybe that's just me, but there was a couple matches there that I like, the San Francisco one, that I just didn't think they had any business losing, but just lost because they tried to force the meta and it didn't work out. But I don't know. I could be completely off base there. That's one of those things you can only actually figure out when you have the team in front of you and can tell them to do that in scrims and see how the results work. But that was a very long patch discussion, and we've still got the entire rest of the show to do.
Yeah, we are almost at an hour already, so we are going to crush through these ones.
Let's do it.
As we,
let's break it.
of course, break down the matches for next week. We can start off with a really quick and easy one. We've got, starting off on Wednesday, we've got Shanghai Dragons. Okay, they're going to lose 0-4. But versus Boston Uprising, the current #1 team in the stage, undefeated this stage, I think bordering on NYXL's win record.
4-0. The fans at 96% are
easy.
off base by about 4%.
Yeah, 4% off. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Moving on, we've got Valiant versus Houston, and this one was one where A, we disagreed, and B, the maps are pretty close here. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the map. Well, we'll talk about who picked what. You're picking Houston 3-0.
Get that coin.
Oh yeah, we're getting the coin ready. You got Houston 3-0. I've got Valiant 3-0. The fans, 72% of them have Valiant here, but let's take a look at the maps, Death.
Yeah, huge flip potential here. Anubis is 7-1-1 for the Los Angeles Valiant. Houston is 3-7. So we'll give one to the to the Los Angeles Valiant here. But I want to say the Valiant were full held on Anubis last week against the Gladiators and have a 43% win rate on the game mode, which includes a 7-1 record on this map. So this map is an outlier for them. There's been a lot of changes in this team. Their map records for the Valiant and London, I think right now, need to be taken with a grain of salt because I think they're different teams than they were when they played on these maps in the past. But nonetheless, we'll give this one to the Valiant. Blizzard World, 2-1 for the Valiant, 3-1 for Houston. Very, very slight edge there. Basically a push. For Nepal, we're looking at 4-3 for each team. That's a push. So we go to Junkertown, where there is a decided advantage in Houston's favor. So we're through 4 maps, and we're at 1-1 map score here. So let's take a look at Oasis, 4-5 versus 4-4. So all these maps are super, super close between these teams. At the end of the day, I think these teams are headed in opposite directions. I think the Valiant are falling from grace. I think Houston is, I mean, not like going up to where the Valiant were, in some people's minds last week. But I think they're on the mend, getting back into the bottom of the playoff race here, rebounding. So there's a reason that we both took Cowards 3-0s, and that's because this one has very big map 5 potential. We've only seen them play the one time. The Valiant, the Houston Outlaws were cold at that time. They were slumping hard. I don't expect to see a 4-0 stop. So whichever way this goes, and it could go either direction, I think it's going to go to 5, and it's going to be super, super close and super, super entertaining. If anybody had been, even if Houston had been picked 72% to win here, I would say that was too high. This to me is an easy flip.
Easy flip. And speaking of flips of the week, let's get the coin here. We'll give your Houston Outlaws the heads, Valiant the tails here. And the coin says that your Houston Outlaws are going to win this week. That is what the coin says. I don't even remember what the coin picked last week.
Coin's brilliant. It agreed with me both times. So that's all. I don't know if me and the coin were right.
It got the last one right. I don't remember what your first pick was.
I think it agreed with me both times. So we'll just have to go with that.
Picks. Yeah. Moving on, we've got Dallas versus Florida. Notably, no effect. So I don't think there's much. I think no effect means no Dallas, right? We've both got Florida here 3-0. 78% of the fans have Florida, and I think with the exception of maybe Shanghai, this might be the highest pick rate for Florida ever.
Yeah. Good work on the fans. You got it right.
Yeah, got it right. No need for a coin here. I think that this is decidedly in Florida's favor.
Effect would make it a coin flip and probably bring that coin out, though. I'll say that if he was there, but he's not.
He is not. Moving on Thursday, we've got Gladiators versus London Spitfire here. You've got the 5-map call here in favor of the Gladiators. I'm taking the Cowards 3-0 for Gladiators here. And the fans, 61% of the fans are in favor of London, but in High Noon Pick'em world, that's basically a coin flip. So let's talk about the maps here.
Yeah, so when we look at it, we've got Volskaya, where the Gladiators are 4-2-1. London is 5-2-1. Slight edge to London, but basically a push. On Blizzard World, we have the Gladiators 4-0. London 1-3, decidedly in the Gladiators' favor. We go to Ilios. This one's a London map, so we've got 7-4 for London, 3-8 for the Gladiators. And then we go to Route 66, where we've got the Gladiators at 4-3, London at 8-2. Listen, those maps lead you very slightly to favor London in this matchup. I'm telling you right now, what I said earlier holds a lot of weight. London is an iffy team to go off of their map win percentages right now because of how poorly they've been in this stage, because Bird Ring's not out there. I'm looking at looking for Pharah maps in this pool. Ilios definitely has some room for it, but I think it's like 1 point where you want to play it, not 2. Oasis is a terrible map for them. So I've got this one with some very serious map 5 potential here, and London is now 2-8. My 0-7 joke last week didn't quite pan out for me because with note, sometimes I'll be very slightly off in the map win percentages here. The platform I use, over.gg, to get the stats from, doesn't let me like exclude preseason results, and it's got these really weird filters for like, you can look at the last 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, or the whole time, and it's like, why can't I get like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4? But hopefully those things get better over time. So I might be very, very slightly off in some of the map calculations, but either way, there's still maps that the team, like performances that the team had on the map. There just might be a preseason thrown in there or something like that. But yeah, I'm giving this one to the Gladiators 3-2. I'm not going to be picking a lot of Cowards 3-0s with London. If I think they're going to win, I'll probably be calling them 3-1. If I think they're going to lose, I'll probably be calling them 3-2 the other.
One thing to note here is that against the last week against the Valiant, Gladiators seemingly threw the very last point of Oasis, where Agilities is just dominating on Pharah, and the previous point, they had no problem bringing in a McCree and countering the Pharah, and then just didn't the last point. I don't think Agilities died the entire match, or that entire point. So let's bring out the coin again. Obviously, we'll go with the Gladiator head for the Gladiators and the tails for the London Spitfire. Ooh, the coin is agreeing with the fans here. That's a coin in favor of London.
Coin's an idiot.
Coin's so dumb. Yeah, he's right half the time. Let's move on. We've got San Francisco versus New York. I'm keeping my tinfoil hat on here and picking a Cowards 3-0 for New York. You've got, I might actually, if I was really buying into it, I'd pick the 3-2. But you've got the Cowards 3-0 for New York as well. 95% of the fans are in favor of New York here. I just don't see it happening for San Francisco.
I can't see the win happening, but I also can't call this a 4-0 for New York. If they want to play Janice twice instead of once, I have a problem with that. Also, I just watched San Francisco beat Philadelphia, so I'm a little leery of just them being able to surprise and maybe do a little better than we expect. Yeah. So I'm not going to go and try to jinx your team for you and call it a 4-0. I'm going to take the safe.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got Seoul Dynasty versus Philly Fusion. We've both got the Cowards 3-0 for Philly. 68% of the fans are in favor of Philly. I just have no confidence in Seoul right now.
How can you? It's really impossible. I don't have anything to add to it. Seoul,
yeah, we talked about it a lot.
Get it together, please. You went from being one of the hype opponents to like, I can't wait to see the Seoul match this week, to like, oh God, I can't. What is Seoul going to do this week? Like,
I'm not paying to see your bench players.
I can't even begin to imagine how the Korean fan base is handling their debacle right now, because
I know exactly
we're not handling it well in North America right now.
I know exactly how they're handling it. They're all NYXL fans. Moving on to Friday, we've got Dallas versus Boston. You picked the 4-0 here for Boston. I probably should have. I got the Cowards 3-0. This is a 97% fan favorite for Boston. I don't think there's really anything to talk about here. Striker's going to just eat the whole team. I'd probably pick like Striker and why am I blanking on their support player? Neko, Striker and Neko. I'd just take those two versus the rest of the fuel, and they'd probably still be favored. Not actually, but pretty close. Moving on, we've got LA Gladiators versus Houston Outlaws. You've got a Houston victory here in 5. I'm picking a Cowards 3-0 for Gladiators. And Gladiators are 65% favorites for the fans. So this is going to be a coin. This one's going to be a coin one, but Death, let's talk about the maps.
Sure. Volskaya is really close. Houston is 5-3-1 on the map. Gladiators are 4-2-1. Slight advantage. No, not even an advantage, right? An extra win, an extra loss. We'll just call that a straight up push here for Volskaya. Looking at Numbani, we've got the Gladiators at 2-6, Houston at 4-3-1. So an advantage here on Numbani, one map up for Houston. Go to Ilios, 3-8 for the Gladiators, 6-8 for Houston. That's weird to look at, but I think that is a decisive advantage here for Houston.
At least more experience.
Right. When we've talked about it in the past, we talked about, well, they played it once more and they won that time. That's not really much of an advantage. This was 3 times. Yeah. So I think it counts at least 3 times more than a one game lead. It's not a big advantage here, but I'm going to give the nod to Houston on this map. Route 66. Well, the Gladiators are 4-3. Houston is 1-6. This is not a map I expect to win for Houston. They did look better, and they finally captured point 2. And they did it decisively and quickly against Dallas. So I was happy. It looked like they did good work and good preparation there. However, as soon as point 3 started, it sure looked like they've never played there before. So maybe they can spend a little time working on map 3. I don't know. You can't predict this to go Houston's way. But I do think the days of it being like a completely unwinnable joke are gone. Like I think they can get it against the mid to lower end teams. I'm not going to pick them to take down Philly or Boston or New York or somebody like that on this
Gladiators
map. No, but I think they've got a chance. I'm not picking it, but there's an outside chance they can steal this map. And we go into Oasis with the tiebreaker, and that is 4-5 and 4-5. So this one is very hotly contested. This should be considered a coin flip. So we're each on each side of the coin here. So Blevins, why don't you flip it and decide who the podcast is picking? Coin if you screw this up.
Of course, the Gladiator is going to be for the Gladiators. So let's see what we got here, coin.
Not the Gladiator.
Ooh, the coin is going in favor of the Houston Outlaws again. The coin loves the Outlaws.
Get the coin by hat. It probably fits him better than it fits me. Because I need this.
Even though he's literally repping, literally is essentially a Gladiator coin. I mean, it is a Gladiator coin, not a.
He looks like a really big Immortals fan, but they're not in the league. So.
Yeah, well, it's actually from the game, the now defunct game Breakaway. But it's actually a really cool. This is an insanely awesome way to give out beta keys. By the way, if anyone's making a game, give me a giant hardy metal coin, and I will play your game.
I'm going to have my beard coin around, though, because that's a more podcast appropriate coin.
Oh, yeah, that coin is pretty sick. I wish I had it. But I have this one, which I also like. Well, I like this coin more than I like my lack of a beard coin. So let's move on here. We've got Valiant versus Florida Mayhem here. We're both picking a Cowards 3-0 for Valiant. 97% of the fans are in favor of Valiant. That's got to be high.
That makes me want to flip it. I almost, when I saw the fans' outrageous pick percentage, I was furious. I don't think the Florida is going to win this one, right? But they are better than a 3% chance to win it. That's crazy. This should be like 80-20, 70-30, something in that range.
I could go 70-30.
This at 97% is blasphemy. It drives me nuts.
Strategic flip of the week for sure.
Yeah, because spoiler alert, I've said it before. I'm going to say it a lot more. Valiant, not that good. Changed my mind. Come at me, bro. Don't at me, nerds. Did you steal everything Uber said in the last?
Yeah.
Last stage. Don't at me, nerds.
If Florida beats Dallas earlier, we could see a momentum. We can see you riding the momentum. I would definitely flip this one if you are looking for a jump, because man, if you can get 400 or 500 points that only 3% of people are getting, take it to the bank. All right, moving on. Saturday, we've got London Spitfire versus San Francisco Shock. We've both got the Cowards 3-0 for London here. 82% of the fans are in favor of London. Shock's got a really hard schedule. They don't even have like New York and someone else, so they can sink all of their time into either the like match they think they can win or to try to upset. They like have to really try to upset both teams. So there's no good way. Okay, the only good way I can think about it, and I talked about this on Foul Play from San Francisco side, is like they're playing two matches that they're definitely not favored to win, so there's no pressure to win. So they can play loosey-goosey, and therefore, potentially.
If London loses decisively to the Gladiators, and San Fran looks adequate, if San Fran goes to 5 against New York, and London loses to the Gladiators, we have to look at this again and see if we.
I probably still wouldn't flip it, but it's definitely a match I would want to watch live. That is for sure. Moving on, we've got what in previous stages has definitely been considered an iconic matchup of Seoul Dynasty. Man, I had to make sure I didn't say Shanghai Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty versus New York Excelsior. Traditionally a very hyped matchup, but we're both going with New York here with the Cowards 3-0. 97% of the fans are in favor of New York. That is high as well, but I don't see Seoul picking this one up. I mean, it's a tale of two completely different teams here from the last time they played.
I do think people have learned their lessons from us, at least in our league, about like, just don't pick Shanghai to win and don't pick New York to lose.
Yeah, you're not
There's
favored.
Just no benefit in it. Like you're not gonna. I mean, if you get there, great. But like, how many times are you gonna pick it and be wrong before you finally?
You're not favored on the overall. That's for sure.
Yes. So don't do that. This one's in New York. I'm just confident enough that Seoul has a small chance to play the correct roster that I'm not going to call them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Seoul tends to play better against New York, like on a stage-by-stage basis than compared to the rest of their stage. I mean, Seoul still has the capacity to play well. At least we think they do. And if they're going to, they're probably going to do it against New York just because that rivalry has been built in for a while.
But maybe Jae-Hung has a tummy ache again. And
he's got to get him some chocolate milk. But last match of the week, we've got Shanghai Dragons versus Philly. Easy clap 4-0 for Philly. 96% of the fans are in favor of Philly. Now think about it like this, folks. Only 96% of you think Philly is going to beat Shanghai, and 97% of you think that Valiant is going to beat Florida. Think about it like that. That's just wrong.
Yes.
That's what we like in the business like to call objectively wrong.
Yeah.
So
you're backwards, fans. Get it together.
That's fine. I know Thawne isn't wrong because he is pulling further and further ahead, and I'm dropped down to third place now in Pick'em. So
Thawne's never wrong.
Thawne never wrong. Thawne never wrong.
With that southern accent, it became a very different first word. But we'll just be a little careful with that. We don't want to give Thawne a bad name. Maybe you like thongs. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a bad name.
Yeah,
it's sandals. They're sandals.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a risque name potentially. Not really even. But that is going to be the end of the analysis for the week. We actually made pretty decent time.
Considering how poorly we were doing on time going into the
we cruised through those. I mean, there was a lot of really really easy claps here, and we went through a lot of maps, and the coin never lies. But do we have any iTunes reviews for any of the shows that we can talk about?
I only checked the flagship since we did Around the Payload last week, and we don't have any. So by all means, do head on over to our iTunes page. Leave us a review. We will read it on the show. 5-star reviews or better, always appreciated.
Or better,
not possible, but appreciated. Like, just put stars into your review. Like at the beginning, just like put an extra 3 stars so I can say we've got an 8-star review. It'll make me feel.
Yeah, just put extra stars in, and we will count those towards the original, and we'll contact Apple to make sure that they count those as well towards our average. Like an average 5.3 star podcast out of 5 would definitely be great. But that's going to bring us to the end of the show, unless we have anything else that we want to throw in at the end.
I think that's it.
I think that
see you guys at game night. Show up Saturday.
Yeah, so Saturday the 28th, I think is the day for it. Okay, Saturday the 28th. I'm going to be streaming at some point in the afternoon. The time that the stream is going to start, I'm not sure, but game night is going to start the instant, if not even slightly before the end of Overwatch League. We don't know how much of the Shanghai Dragons Philly match we're going to want to stomach. But the second that ends, you can head over to High Noon Podcast, twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast, to see what's going on the stream. You can head over to discord.me/High Noon Podcast and join the game night thing there. We will be, you'll probably see a bunch of people in voice chat, which is somewhat uncommon for the channel, but we will be in there. We'll be hosting some stuff.
There's a text channel. There's voice channels. Just join one of the voice channel lobbies. The leader will direct you to a different one if they need more people or something like that. Pop in, say hi. We'll get you plugged in and get you playing.
And I'm gonna be when I'm running one, I'm gonna be getting games going, and they're gonna be churning. They're gonna be going quick. No lollygagging, no dilly dallying. We're gonna be going game after game after game after game. So if you're ready,
no fun in Blevins'
if you are looking to grind out some games,
no fun.
If you're looking to grind out some games, I'm going to be on top of it. I can't. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves when playing pickup basketball is like people like after the game they like argue and they like talk and they like don't get the next game started. I'm like, get these losers, like literally the people who lost, get them off the court and get the next team on immediately. I want to get like as many games as possible in the amount of time that we have. So I'm going to be running it. It's going to be a well-oiled machine. We're going to play 150 games. No fun. Some fun allowed, but not encouraged. Fun allowed, not encouraged.
Only in the games in your own private voice channel, not in the lobby.
Not in the lobby. That is going to be it, guys. Make sure you head over there. You can always head over to High Noon Podcast. Over to highnoonpodcast.com to find the links to everything. Huge shout outs again to kingsrowtimes.com. They are the first official and non-meme, non-joke sponsor of an episode. You may or may not be hearing them in more episodes in the future, but you'll have to keep an eye and an ear out for that. If that is something that you are interested in, even if it's not a spot like that, we can work something out. We can talk about it. We can, it's not like a plug and play, just do whatever. It's a conversation, and we'll accommodate as much as we can. Email us at highnoonpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, that's enough plugs. Guys, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for the live show at twitch.tv/HighNoonPodcast. Thanks all the patrons at patreon.com/HighNoonPodcast. I said that's enough of the plugs, and then I immediately plugged 3 more things. But that is going to be it, guys. For Deathblow, I am the Blevins. And remember, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Oh, I want to break from playing. 2 times a week is too many to play.